or email.
For staying with KTN News, now get this. In May 2021, the Uasin Gishu County government partnered with Tampere University in Finland in a program that would see students from the devolved unit airlifted to study and live in the foreign country. The first batch of learners left the country on September 14th, 2021, 3 months after the deal was signed, with the then governor, Jackson Mandago, flagging off the first batch of 51 students. To sweeten the deal, successful applicants in the program were believed to have been guaranteed employment in Finland upon completion of their courses. Hence, many families took the chance, organizing fundraisers here and there to enable the young minds to pursue their dreams. The county government went ahead to open an account, the Uasin Gishu County Government Overseas Trust Fund, to collect the fees from parents. Under the deal, the county was a guarantor for the students in various universities in payment of tuition fees. A couple of years down the line, a bitter taste has been left in the mouths of the students and families involved after glaring inconsistencies emerged. Lack of remittance of money for successful candidates, delays in dispatching students who were deemed successful, and now parents are demanding for a refund, terming the entire arrangement a scam. So tonight, we ask the hard questions, all in a bid to get to the bottom of this quagmire that has left many depressed, wondering how the current blame game between the current and previous county administration will truly sort out their plight. I'm Jesse Rogers. Welcome to the special program dubbed Botched Scholarships. Allow me to introduce the guests joining us tonight to give us more impetus in this particular conversation. First of all, I'm joined by Engineer John Barorot, who's the Deputy Governor, Uasin Gishu County. He'll be addressing some of the administrative issues involving the Uasin Gishu Airlift program. We're equally joined by Bob Mwiti, who's the Director of Kenya Airlift Program, and his capacity right here will to help us understand how exactly this airlift program works, bearing in mind Kenya Airlift Program helps students study in the US. So he'll be a stakeholder from the outside looking in, helping us get highlights around red flags, explaining ideally how airlift programs are structured to ensure return of investments. We're equally joined virtually by Kimutai Kirui, who's a human rights activist from the Center Against Torture, who's been actively following up on this particular case, equally petitioning at the ad hoc committee at the parliament level and equally at the county assembly level. So we're definitely bound to have a fruitful discussion. Feel free to interact with us at KTN News Online, on Twitter, even as we get to interrogate some of the concerns raised in this particular issue. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, and karibuni sana. Engineer, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Karibu.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Mwiti, equally, asante for your time. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Yeah, so yes. Perhaps we can start with the nitty-gritty details. And of course, I'll start with you, Deputy Governor, because we've heard a lot about the botched scholarships. We've equally seen scenes of parents, relatives who are aggrieved in one way or the other with the county government of Uasin Gishu. So let's understand the nitty-gritty details of this whole program. According to your understanding, what exactly was envisioned in this program? What promises were given to parents? And what was expected from these guardians in terms of those who are successful in applying for the program?
Thank you, Rogers. I think first of all, I want to greet all Kenyans who are listening to us here in the country and beyond, in the diaspora. I want to greet the people of Uasin Gishu, wherever they are, parents, students in Finland and in Canada, that this program was actually a noble program. First of all, let me clarify that government is a going concern. So from the previous government to the current government under the leadership of Governor Jonathan B. Kotimoja, we are continuing with whatever was started by the previous regime, because this is a going concern too. This program started in Finland, and it was a noble program. it started by ensuring that to be able to handle the issue of payment of fees, a trust was registered, fully registered in the Ministry of Lands with 6 trustees. It's called Uasin Gishu Overseas Trust, with 6 trustees who were appointed in their own rights as individuals. They have been managing the program from the beginning up to now. An account was opened in Kenya Commercial Bank, Eldoret East, and that account is still being managed up to now. After Jonathan B came into power, together with myself, was that we discovered that there were a lot of issues around this program. A lot of parents were coming to complain and all that. So in the wisdom of His Excellency the Governor, he decided to form a task force of 9 people, which I chair as the Deputy Governor, and I have 6 of my colleagues, County Secretary, County Attorney, 2 CECs, Legal Advisor, and then we have 3 parents who are members of this committee. So the first thing we did was to understand the program. So we talked to the trustees, we talked to the bank, we talked actually to the parents, we talked even to the neighboring county, where they started the program, and we started understanding. We talked to the universities in Finland to understand, and it was not really a scholarship. Even if the MOUs initially indicated that it's a scholarship, the parents were made aware from day one that it is not a scholarship. So parents were paying money into this trust account, and that money were remitted to the universities. Allow me to give some numbers, so that when the questions come, I will have given numbers of. So since inception, today we have 277 students in Finland, 276 now, after we lost 1. So we have 276 already in Finland in different universities, a total of 8 universities, and I can mention all of them. Tampere, you just mentioned one, Tampere. We have what we call Jyväskylä, we have Krestia, we have under Laurea, we have several colleges. We have Forvo, we have Tikurila, we have Otanemi, and then we have, there are 4 actually in Laurea. So there are a total of 8 universities, and this is where we have students largely studying, and then we have LUT, which is for engineering. So we have engineering students, we have nursing students. Nursing are in 2 groups. There are those who are doing degree, and there are those who are doing a diploma. We have physiotherapy. So all these 276 are largely around medical and some bit of engineering courses.
Okay, so it's currently ongoing. They're still supported in terms of remittances. Are they up to date as we speak right now?
So I'll come to that, because this is a 3-year to 3.5-year program, and the understanding between the county through the trust and the parents was that fees were to be paid on a semester basis. So as we speak now, because mistrust came in along the way, we organize parents into cohorts. So each university now has a group of parents leadership, and accounts were opened in Euro, in KCB, where the parents are able to pay, and if the students also manage to raise some funds while in Finland, they are able to deposit into that account. And as we speak now, during the summer holidays, they are busy actually working, looking for their fees, while their parents are also working hard to support, because come September, most of them will be joining 2nd year, and fees will be required to be paid.
Thanks for that update. So you've mentioned critically that this wasn't a scholarship specifically. So what exactly was this program? A county government program? Was it a self-sponsored program? Because we have reports that, the official logo of the county government was used, in some of the documents. What exactly was it?
So the whole purpose really is, this is fully sponsored by the parents, but we needed an innovative way of avoiding the issue of the huge bank statements required for students to go abroad. So by signing an MOU, which purported to be a scholarship, it allowed actually students to be able to go without. These are hustler children and parents in terms of ability to raise bank statement was the biggest challenge. So with this arrangement of signing the MOU and the parents were being told clearly their responsibilities, it was a lot easier to actually get accepted into the various programs. And so this is the part that we've come out very clean under the new government, and we said it is not a scholarship.
Okay.
We've told all the universities in Finland and also in Canada, because it is one and the same program. Mm-hmm. So we've told them it is not a scholarship, and we agreed with them that it is, now that we have said it, can we ensure that fees are paid by the parents? Because the university said, look, we want fees to be paid
on time,
and we'll continue on time.
Okay.
And this is what we've been arranging since. Other than the students in Finland, I also want to say we have 149 students who have enrolled in the program. One semester fees have been remitted. They are still in Kenya, but there is a new requirement now from their immigration, which came in the last few months, that now for Uasin Gishu students, they need to pay 1 year fees. And as we speak now, the 149 are actually in the process of raising the second semester fees so that we can finalize the issue of issuance of visas. And when I talk about Finland, I want to also talk about Canada, because the same trustees are managing the program both in Finland and in Canada. Mm-hmm. In Canada today, we have 45 students who are in 4 universities in Canada. We have British Columbia, we have Thomson's River, we have Stenbach, and we have Fanshawe. And we have 189 who are in the pipeline, who fees have been paid for 1 semester. And also Canada have come up with a new requirement that you need to pay 1 year fees. So now the parents are organizing to pay the second semester fees. And as we speak, 2 of the groups of parents in 2 universities, Stenbach and Fanshawe, are paid fees last week. And now we are progressing to finalizing the issue of visas for them.
Okay, okay, that's really promising.
Now, there's a third group. There's a third group of students. Yeah. Actually, 2 more groups. There's a third group of students who have withdrawn. Since 2021 up to now, we have 119 students who have withdrawn from the program and have been refunded their monies to the tune of 67 million shillings. But we also have a number of students who paid their fees for 1 semester but have not been enrolled to any of the universities, mm-hmm. yet they paid. Mm-hmm. This is 125 students, 103 for Canada, and 22 for Finland. So I just wanted to give the whole bouquet, which adds up to a total of 904 students since the inception of the program.
Okay, and a little bit earlier on, just to backtrack, you mentioned something about the Memorandum of Understanding, and we heard from a couple of parents who haven't been able to see this Memorandum of Understanding between the county and some of these institutions. Since you're privy to this information, what exactly is in the MOU, briefly?
It is actually normally MOUs are very general terms in legalities to say that we will provide students in these programs between the university and the county government, and it is something that we enter into to facilitate this program. So it's a very general, but it is available in the county for those who are interested to have a look. But it's a very general memorandum of understanding. Okay,
so it's available for those who are concerned. Allow us to bring Bonamiti into the conversation, because we've just heard from the Deputy Governor highlighting some of the issues around this Airlift program, specifically touching on Uasin Gishu. But since you're a stakeholder in this particular space, and I'm pretty sure you've been following up on some of the issues that have been raised from the parent side who feel aggrieved, and equally what the county government right now has raised in terms of the ongoing processes and whatnot. Your general overview of this process, what exactly are the red flags perhaps one should look out for so that you're not aggrieved at the end of the day from your analysis?
All right, so thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here. My name is Bob Mwiti, as you said. I currently live in the US, in the state of Florida, in a city called Tampa. I run an initiative called the Kenya Airlift program that basically helps brilliant Kenyan students pursue graduate studies abroad. We mostly focus on STEM designated programs, basically science, technology, engineering, math. And from what I've heard from Honorable Engineer John about the issue that they have with Uasin Gishu, I think it's very, very important that even for the families and students and parents to be very, very keen in terms of looking at, because you don't just get into a program just like that, yeah? There's usually a contract maybe that you sign saying that, this is how the program runs. If there's any contributions that you have to make, it shows what contributions that you are making. And in case of refunds, in case of anything, because usually such programs, there's nothing that is guaranteed. And usually there's that misconception, especially when you have something like an airlift. People tend to think it's a scholarship. And I understand where it's coming from, because even for us, actually, in our program, we get a lot of people calling to our offices saying, hey, you know what, I heard you guys have a scholarship. I would like to know much about it. And yet, it's usually not really a scholarship, yeah? So it's very, very important that the students and the parents really get to know what is in that contract so that they know what they are signing up to, because that is what will tell them whether there's any refunds or how really the process works and how their school fees will be paid. So it's very, very important that they look into that. On the other hand, I feel like what Honorable said, I think the initiative was a good idea. Personally, I feel maybe the way it was executed, maybe that's where there was issues. Because not everything was ironed out in terms of how the school fees would be paid and all that, because you see also at the end of the day, universities on the other side usually require students to actually have money to be able to pay. And for example, for the case of the US, actually the universities you have to show that you have funding for a full year, which would be in terms of millions of Kenya shillings. Now, if you cannot be able to provide that upfront, it means actually that student has a very high chance of dropping out of school. And if a student drops out of school, then it means they actually lose their status to live in the US, which is a big, big problem. The moment you're actually unable to pay school fees for even just one semester, then you're out of status. And I believe all these countries, really, that's how they operate. So it's very, very important that, something is in place in the way the execution of the school fees and remittances. Something should have been done that way. But generally, I feel like it was just a very good program that maybe was not executed well.
Okay, and we'll talk about this execution because that's where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. And perhaps I'll pose the question in terms of the payment agreement around, this particular airlift program. But before we do that, let's listen to what the Finnish ambassador to Kenya had to say a little bit earlier this year in March when he was put to task to perhaps explain from his point of view the whole issue around the airlift program. Listen in.
This is not an agreement which concerns or involves the government of the Republic of Finland in any way. It is not a scholarship program at all. From what I have understood, and what is as the case, because I happen to know that, is that the county governments of Uasin Gishu and the county governments of some other counties as well have contacted an educational institute. An agreement has been signed, and that agreement has two elements. One is for the educational institute to provide high-level education, which I can assure you the Finnish institutions do, and the other is for the county government to pay for the fees of this education. We are now in March. These education courses started last year in the autumn. So if you think that if the fees have not been paid, there has been a long, long time during which they've actually really tried to find those solutions and look at those solutions. And I think it is important that both sides of the contract are fully honored.
All right, so he's definitely explained about the agreement between the county government and the institutions, not the Republic of Finland. So when it comes to paying of some of these remittances, DG, kindly explain to us in terms of the structures as they were. And right now we understand that there are different batches, those who are already abroad, continuing with the studies, and those who are here waiting for, facilitation to actually continue with that vision. So let's talk about those who are ongoing currently before we get to those who are aggrieved in one way or the other and are asking for refunds. So for those who are ongoing with their studies, we've heard of instances where remittance has delayed and it's been, talked about in the public gallery. What exactly are the structures as he raised a little bit earlier on?
Thank you, Rogers. So let me say that we also have agents in Finland and in Canada. So we have two agents in Finland, Max Global, and we have Skilled Up. Those are the people who, because they live in Finland, they are the ones who approach the universities, look at the programs, because these are programs called on demand. So we have to provide a whole class of cohort of students because they are not joining with other students. So they make the arrangements, look for the program, tailor to fit capabilities of our students, and also knowing very well what Finland needs. Because I want to say that this program is not been started only with Kenya, with Uasin Gishu in particular. It started, if you go to Finland, they started it in Philippines, they have done it in Vietnam, they have done it in China. They have a lot of those middle-level courses because you have to learn their language and culture. In fact, the first course that they need to do while they are still here is to do what we call pathway studies, to understand their culture and studies. So once the first semester fees are paid and accommodation is paid, and of course you need to pay for visa processing, you need to pay for accommodation, you need to pay for air ticket. Now,
and this was all on the parents, yeah?
All on the parents.
Okay.
100%.
Yes.
That's all on the parents. That's why they were depositing money into all the funds are managed by the overseas trust. Out of the 6 trustees, there are 3 signatories who have been managing the account from the beginning up to now. It's the same because they are trustees by virtue of being individuals. They are Kenyans. In fact, 3 of them are employees of the county. One of them was an employee, but he was a chief officer. So when the term for the last regime ended, he also ceased being an employee of the county. But as a trustee, he continues being the principal trustee. Okay. So this account is managed from the beginning up to now by trustees. And any recommendation from my committee, the task force committee, we make recommendations to the trustees, to the signatories, so that they can effect.
So why was there a delay? In layman's language, so those back at home can understand in terms of a delay in remittance of funds for those who have already started their programs.
So the delay was based on, in the course of last year, there was some bit of mistrust on the management of the account.
Okay.
Because there were some leaked bank statements which were in the social media. So there was mistrust, and the trustees could not be able to convince parents to pay fees for the second semester. It is only after we came out clean and talked to the universities, because I was dealing with the presidents and vice president of the various universities, and they say they need the money to be paid. So we said allow us to discuss with the parents how best to remit fees for their students in Finland. And that is when we suggested to the trustees that we, in the name of the trust, open an account in the same bank, but to be fully managed by the parents. So the parents in every university grouped themselves and selected chairman, treasurer, and secretary, and 2 of them being signatories to manage that account.
Right.
And that is what really ensured the collection of fees. We negotiated with the university. Initially, the timeline to pay fees was February. We negotiated it to extend it to end of March. And by end of March, a substantial amount had been paid, and then the universities allowed us a bit more time. So now that parents are already organized, out of it, the 11 universities, that is the 7 we have in Finland and the 4 in Canada, all of them have opened euro accounts and dollar accounts, still in the name of the trustees, but fully managed by the selected parents. And as we speak now, they are collecting fees, either from themselves, the parents, or the students. And I want to thank them, because now they have really organized themselves to pay fees. So there was that delay and hiccup, which delayed.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. And just briefly, before we cross over to Mwiti, in terms of the agencies that were involved, what the parents broken down for in terms of this, you'll be paying to a certain agency, because we've had reports about there was no clarification as such during the onset of this particular program in terms of a fee being paid to particular agencies.
So actually fees were not paid to agencies. So there are two types of agencies that I need to explain. So the agencies that were looking for the programs were actually being paid a one-off fee per student. But the fees were paid by the trustees directly to an agent in Finland representing the universities. There is an agent called Edu Excellence, which was actually selected. They were selected by the universities in Finland. So the monies were being paid to, and they're still being paid to that, what we call Edu Excellence, side that now they manage the universities. So there are two types of agencies. So the agencies we use to look for the program, once they look for the program and organize for accommodation, the monies were being remitted directly to the agent dealing with the universities called Edu Excellence, and the agent dealing with accommodation in Finland called Foreignum. So the other agencies were not really part of handling the fees.
Okay, and I had, in terms of some of the parents, they mentioned something to do with pathways. I think you'll get to clarify that if there was an agency involved. But crossing over to you, Mwiti, in terms of agencies being involved in certain airlift programs, whether it's study-related or work-related, what exactly should you look out for? What are the red flags? Because we've heard of numerous reports. Perhaps one of the Senate committees was looking into, those who were promised work during the World Cup, but it wasn't forthcoming. So in terms of Kenyans who are burning or eager to look for work or further their studies abroad, how should they approach agents?
All right, I think that's a very good question. Now, when it comes to agencies and those institutions that facilitate studying abroad, usually there's certifications that normally, if you are really serious agency, you must get, which sets the standards for recruiting international students. In terms of integrity, things to follow, when it comes to, what students are getting, when they join the agency. All that is basically outlined in the, in the handbooks or whatever documents that the agency has that shows to the student. So when it comes to finding the right agency, I think for students out there and parents, maybe something to look out for is whether those agencies are certified, because there's organizations out there that certify. For example, even what we do, because we actually an agency also to the universities that we send students to, where we negotiate tuition waivers and a few other things that normally, if a student is not going through the agency, they would have to do it. For example, evaluation of transcripts, doing exams like, TOEFL exams, which is usually a test of English as a foreign language, and yet we speak English. So if parents and teachers, parents and students can be able to look at some of those, whether those agencies are certified, that will give them a clue on whether they're actually working with the right agencies. For example, like us in the US, we are certified by an agency called American International Recruitment Council, which has really, really tough standards that you have to meet, and they do audits of business processes and all that to make sure that you are not out there scamming, parents or students to join such programs.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that you definitely need to look out for the documentation
Yes.
that's authorized in one way or the other.
Correct.
Allow us to listen to what exactly the former governor of Uasin Gishu County, the now Senator Jackson Mandago, had to say just a little bit earlier on this month when he was put to task to perhaps explain the inconsistencies, because he was definitely getting the bulk of the blame. This is part and parcel of what he had to say. Listen in.
I know the matter was taken up by EACC and DCI. I'm also saying, I, as Jackson Mandago, the senator of this county, I am available anytime when called to explain, to write a statement, or to do anything for this program. Because I'm very forthright and clear in my mind that, one, contrary to what people say that I took this money, I never took any money. When we handed over on the 25th of August, the cash in the bank, and we are not talking about Juagali Bank, we are talking about Tier 1 bank in this country, Kenya Commercial Bank, account number 128 59 22 778. The amount of money that was in that account on that day was 37,529,329.06. I will give you a certified copy of the bank statement, so that when somebody says there was only 1 million in the account, then they have to produce their own bank statement, totaling to 67,200,000. I will avail to you copies, so that those who say they had a million, 1.8 million in the account, can then tell us, so when I left, where did the rest of the money go? Then let's have a meeting and resolve this problem. I cannot allow myself a situation where parents and students are being tossed up and down and nobody wants to take responsibility. And if the governor cannot convene a meeting, I will convene the meeting myself, so that we put the matter to rest. Number two, if truly the governor says he doesn't know the program, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you, when the petition was sent to county assembly, and the county assembly made their report, what did the county government do? The governor himself, in a press statement, suspended staff who are operating the program. What happened with the program? It was moved from the Department of Education to the office of the Deputy Governor. The governor himself has traveled to Canada, to the same universities.
There you have it, Senator Uasin Gishu County just explaining some of the issues around the program. And one thing that stood out, when the program was handed over to the now administration led by Koti Moja governor, it had more than 104 million shilling in the bank accounts under the Overseas Education Trust. So that's one of the areas in terms of the inconsistencies we'll be putting forward in terms of the deputy governor answering. But before we do that, let's bring in one of the human rights activists that has been following up on this particular issue since the onset. Allow me to introduce Kimutai Kirui. If you can hear me, I hope he is joining us clearly. Well, we seem to have a technical issue right there. We'll definitely bring him on board once we get our end of the technical issue sorted out. But Deputy Governor, let's respond to the inconsistencies in terms of the money. And the obvious question would be, where did the money go to? We know there's an investigation going on, but administratively following up, why are there inconsistencies in terms of amounts?
Thank you very much, Rogers. I said that this is managed by a trust of 6 trustees. They managed it then during the previous government. They still manage that account even now. The committee, which I chair, only makes recommendations to them. So I want us to look at the bank account as a bank statement from the beginning up to now, because taking snapshots of a bank statement which has monies running into millions of shillings will not be doing any justice. But suffice it to say that we've decided to do a database of all students involved from inception up to now. We put a record because, as the senator rightly said, I have people now in my office looking at how to provide, because there are students involved on this, all these numbers that we talk about. So what we did was do a database of all the students, do a record using the files that we have of all the monies that each parent has paid since. Then do a record of all payments that have been paid for that student. That is from inception up to now. If you have withdrawn, we have put that record. If your money has not been remitted, that's how we were able to find out the numbers of students who have not been remitted. So when we did this, we discovered actually that when we look at the monies which were paid by the parents, plus the money which have been paid for their student, there is a huge gap. So there is a huge issue of process in managing this program. As we speak now, just using our own database, because we don't have access to the bank statement. In fact, we don't have access to the bank statement. It's only the trustees who can get a bank statement. So when we used now creating that database, we discovered actually that an amount of 87 million has been paid to students using other parents' monies, because there was no proper accounting structures of all that. So they were just saying, even if you paid less, you are paid in full. And that is now creating a huge gap. That is one huge challenge. The other challenge is the overpayment to some of the universities to the tune of 18 million. We have engaged the universities already. Where the overpayment happened was because also of the issue of process. You start with, say, 40 students, only 30 of them get visas. You paid at the beginning, you paid for the 40. Now the 10, nobody asked for a refund. It is my committee that we started now engaging the universities to say we need these remittances. Some of them have started coming back. From 2021 and 2022, there was a huge list of withdrawals to the tune of 67 million shillings. And that is why I still stand, me and my committee, we stand and we welcome the EACC and the DCI, because we'll be now able to have access to the bank statement, corroborate what we have from our database that we have, and then use that statement to find out, because there is some shortage. As we speak today, we have 125 students where their money, we cannot refund them because the money available. When I talked about the 1.8 million, that was the snapshot as of last week when we were issuing that statement, because we keep on discussing with the trustees, because remember, we had 75 students who went to Finland in March when we already had the task force in place, because they had been doing classes online. We talked to the universities and they said let them pay second semester fees, then they can go to Finland. When they were allowed to go to Finland, we had, through the trustees, we had to pay for their air ticket and their accommodation, because fees for the first semester had been paid. So we've been working, making recommendations to the trustees to make any payments, but we don't manage the account. So I really welcome the investigators. But as we do this investigation, let's know that there are children involved, so that we focus on looking for solutions for the children. Now, you asked me earlier, Rogers, you asked me about the pathway. Let me mention it, because pathway, before you even start processing visa for Finland, you need to learn their language. And that is the Finnish language, because that's the media of communication when they go to school. So all students going to Finland have to learn their language when they are still here. They do it online, they are trained online. Before they are enrolled into any program in Finland, and I want to echo what Mr. Muiti said, the universities themselves, because in Finland the education system is competency-based curricula. So they come actually and get the applicants Then they come and do assessment. They used to come to do assessment in the county. So that now they can select, because they don't use the certificates, the Kenyan certificates. They actually assess them. And this is how students are enrolled into all these programs in Finland. In Canada, it's different because it is English. In Canada, you don't have the issue of language. So this is very specific to Finland. So yes, my words are, we welcome DCI and ESCC. We've been doing a lot of handshake. We've shared our database, the one that we used making our records. And truth be told, when we get some of these shortcomings and whatever it is only the bank statement that can be able to really tell the in and outs of all the monies that have been handled in the program.
And I know it's an ongoing investigation, but from an administrative point of view, I'd like to ask specific questions in terms of the deficit in the monies that have been remitted by parents, guardians. What deficit are we looking at? Number two, you've mentioned that certain individuals withdrew money. Were these individuals attached to the county government? Did they have authority to access these accounts? Because that's where the rubber meets the road.
So I want to say that I didn't actually say that they withdrew. What we've done is that we've done a database of all the monies which were paid by parents, all the monies which were paid to the universities, because all these transactions were EFTs. So we have records of all this, and we have traced all of them to each student. We are not able to look at the cash withdrawals, because that will not be in the record of what we have in our files. So from the information that we have managed to trace 87 million, which was parents' money used to pay other parents' fees. We have 18 million that we've seen, which was overpaid to universities. There is some agency fees which have been paid. So when we look at the deficit of the 125, the deficit is coming to around 140 million. When now we less the 87 million of the parents' money used to pay other parents and what was overpaid to universities, we still cannot touch around 33 million Kenya shillings. And I believe this will be ironed out by the investigations which are ongoing. But nevertheless, as we look at this, we are going out of our way to support, even if this is managed by trustees. As a county government, we care actually for the students and the parents of the people of Uasin Gishu, and that is why, in the wisdom of Governor Jonathan B., he said, let's look at every way possible to see how we can assist the students, those who are in Finland, because there is continuing fees. The total fees that will be paid is nearly 3.5 million for the 3.5 years that they will be there, and they need to pay every other semester. The ones who are still here, we need to assist them for them to get visas, and that's why we are encouraging now parents to pay second semester fees. And the same thing we are doing in Canada, encouraging them to pay fees. In fact, this Wednesday, because of the two universities who are paid, the two universities, one university has 66 of our students and another one has 37. They are paid fees for the second semester. So now the embassy here in Nairobi have invited us for a discussion this Wednesday, an online discussion to now progress what next. So we still believe actually that there is opportunity for our children, for our students to study abroad, where we believe there is ample opportunity, just like it has happened to people from Vietnam, people from Philippines, people from, so it is, let's really request all our people that let's avoid sensational reporting, let's put politics a bit aside because children are involved. And the report that we got from, because there are parents who petitioned in the county assembly, and the report came in February to the executive. And the recommendations that they gave, number one was that we should not enroll any new students, which we have not. We are only dealing with the ones that by the time the report came from the assembly, because their report is binding. So we have not enrolled any new. Then they recommended that we suspend 3 of employees who are managing this program. So I want to separate two things. So they were actually taken aside by the governor. They took leave as county employees. But as trustees, a trust is a corporate entity created by law, and they stand alone as a corporate body. So whereas those employees are being told to step aside as employees of the county, they are still trustees, because the trust is fully registered in the Ministry of Lands, and anybody interested to check can do. Now, there is the comment about the issue of the county attorney, who was also recommended that he should step aside. Mm-hmm. There is a clear procedure of removing a county attorney, because his position recognized by law. And there is actually a process of removing a county attorney. It's not just by a simple report. You have to get a tribunal appointed by the governor. Then it's a whole process, and it's clearly defined in law.
And there's a process ongoing.
So it is not been triggered, because the report from the county assembly was just saying that it should step aside.
Okay.
But we should follow the tribunal way. So it is not.
Mwiti, briefly, in terms of what has been said, and we've definitely seen, unfortunately, sort of blame game between the previous and the current administration. I know DG has clarified how the governor and his administration is taking up this task to ensure that it's a smoothened and the process is streamlined. But your observation generally before we cross over to what the residents of Uasin Gishu County have to say.
Okay, I think people also need to realize that, this kind of initiative, it's a huge initiative, and it's not that easy. Let no one tell you that it's easy to actually take students abroad. There's a lot of challenges, challenges even to do with visas. When students don't get visas, then what, how do they get back the money, if there is any that the student needs to be refunded? So what I can say is that I think what Honorable Engineer John has said, maybe the county government needs to be given a little bit more time to clean up the mess. And because of the fact that they've already stopped recruiting new students, maybe they can work with, try to fix the mess that is already there, and be able to help those who are already in the process. Rather than just, leaving them in limbo, they can basically try to push and, take them to school, wherever they are supposed to go.
Okay.
But it's not really easy. I mean, such initiatives, even from what we have ourselves, it's not that easy to really execute it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. And we'll definitely get to the subject of the matter. But as we continue taking a look at some of the inconsistencies, it would be improper of us to have this conversation without bringing in some of those who were affected in one way or the other. My colleague Elvis Koskei interacted with some of the parents, guardians, and Bwana DG, you might need to note this down because they had a couple of questions directly posed to the deputy governor asking for clarifications here or there. Let's just listen in to some of their comments through our reporter Elvis Koskei.
Thank you very much for coming to you from Eldoret in the county of Uasin Gishu, ambapo leo nitakuwa nazungumza na wazazi pamoja na wanafunzi ambao watakuwa namsikiza naibu gavana ambaye yuko studio ili watoe maswali yao hasa ni yapi kuhusiana na sakata hii ya Finland na nchi ya Canada. Nitaanza nawe mzee. Naibu gavana anakusikiza. Swali lako ni lipi haswa?
Sasa mimi nauliza gavana au Barorot. Kwani wakati nililipa pesa mwezi ya 6 mwaka jana mpaka leo na mimi iko na mtoto nyumbani nililipa shilingi 1 milioni na 500,000 milioni 1 na 500,000 mwaka jana mpaka leo. Sasa nini inaendelea? Na wewe nasema watoto taenda sababu niliona kwa picha ati nyinyi ndio sponsor. Baadaye narudi nasema hapana. Sasa mimi nauliza gavana au Barorot, ni nini alifanyika? Wewe angalia nywele nyeupe. Mitalani wewe. Wewe naona mimi ni mzee. Hata angalia masikio. Amepatolewa. Iko ngine kama wewe natanganya mimi nachukua pesa. Mimi iko na stress. Sasa nataka nikufe. Mimi siendi kibarua. Mimi nauliza Mr. Barorot na Jalili, rudisha pesa kabla hata mwezi mmoja kuisha.
Lakini swali ni kwamba mlilipa aje? Kuna karatasi yoyote ambayo inaonyesha kwamba pesa ililipwa na ililipwa kwa nani? Tafadhali, hiyo ndio swali rahisi na ujibu hivyo tu.
Even if we go to the TV shows and you're not talking to us, or you are not refunding our money, you are making us more depressed. Kindly, to the government, let this process be fastened. We are dying of depression. And the only thing for us to heal is the money. Deputy Governor, explain to everybody in Kenya or to all media stations on how you will refund the money. For those who took the money or what, as a government, because it was your initiation, just continue with the investigations, but for us, kindly release us by refunding our money. That is the medicine we need so that the depression we have is out. Our parents are sick. What will we use to nurse them? You don't even care about our lives. For example, this might be personal or something else, but I posted a pic because I was over-depressed. Nobody in the county government or in that program, starting from the small officials in the office, came or called me to ask me if it is true I have died or I am still alive. And it is just because of the money we paid. Kindly answer the questions, but go direct to the refund table.
Watoto tuko naye. Kila kitu tumeuza. Shamba mimi nimeuza. Karibu eka 5 na watoto iko nyumbani watoto 3. Sasa nataka nikufe alafu watoto wafanye nini? Ama unatakaje? Hii pesa unawekea nani? Mnaweka paka siku gani? Watoto iko nyumbani. Watoto natapika. Mimi natapika. Utangojea nikufe alafu nikuje kushika mimi? Hiyo ni swali mimi nauliza. Hiyo nimetosha mimi, hakuna kitu kingine.
Barorot, it is important for you to tell us today how you will inherit a government and take all the privileges and then leave all the liabilities. Because it is not possible. You have taken the government, you take it all. The privileges, the liabilities, the assets, all of it, you take it. Thank you.
Asante sana. Wacha tusikie kwa mwingine.
So my name is Brian, and to Deputy Governor, my question is, what was Governor doing in Canada, in Thompson Rivers University? Secondly, why was this program shifted from the Department of Education, Youth and Gender to the Deputy Governor's office? Thirdly, Governor, we have been holding these meetings with you. You promised that the money was safe. And you told us if you no longer want to continue with the program, let the money, write the letter so that the money can be refunded. Up to date, there is no money that has been refunded. And finally, Deputy Governor and Governor, in your own capacity as the leaders of Uasin Gishu County, what are you doing to ensure that our mental health is coming back into its initial form since we are suffering?
Sasa nataka kuuliza criteria gani ambaye ilitumika ili kwamba mimi mwenyewe nililipa by March 14 nimemaliza kile ilikuwa natakikana, na up to today 2022 March 14 2022, na ile ikawaje kwamba wanafunzi wale karibu 87 hawakulipa chochote walienda.
What about those ones who want their refund, who have stayed for maybe 2 years at home and they have not been refunded their money? The other, finally is about unfairness that you are doing. You recruit students and you take those ones who came late, who come late and leave those ones who have been there for that long.
So my major question is, which criteria did they use to select students? Because personally, I was among the first people to apply, paid the full amount, did the interview, paid full amount by the 24th February, yet I'm still in Kenya.
The question is, we want clearly the amount of fee that were paid per student to be indicated and evidence shown before maybe the end of.
Okay, so that's a sample of some of the questions, and you can truly tell it's an emotive subject, really close to some of the parents, guardians, and students who are affected in one way or the other. So we'll try and be forthright and as straight as possible without speculation. So let's start with one of the issues that were raised. Is the money safe? Number one. And number two, in terms of refunds, when should they expect the money?
Thank you very much, Rogers. It is really a very emotive issue.
Yeah.
Personally, I've been meeting these parents on Thursdays. We've organized them into groups based on where the children are supposed to go, which universities they are. Now, in terms of refunds, I just want to be very forthright, the way I've been to all of them, that the money in this program is managed through the trust.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how the students were taken to university, some ahead of the others, there was no process actually around managing this program. That is the finding of my committee. In fact, going forward, we'll have to document this thing completely because there was no procedures of how to do it. Even when you look at the refunds, there was no formula like fast in, fast out. They just it was like a race. And it's the same way, even the way money was being paid by these same parents, it was a race. They were being told if you don't pay within the next few days, you lose a chance to get the program. So there are challenges actually in terms of process definition around management of this program. When the refunds were done up to 2022, December, January, they refunded actually nearly all the money that was available in the trust account.
To how many aggrieved families?
To 119.
Okay.
A total of 67 million. Then the funds nearly ran out. And that is why I've explained that there are monies which were used to pay other parents, monies from the same account. That is the 87 million. There were monies which were overpaid to universities. So
and that's fine. You've clarified in
Yes.
terms of overpaying.
Yes.
But in terms of the lack of trust in these parents, is the money safe? Apart from the overpayment, apart from, some payment to agencies here and there, at the end of the day, despite of the lengthy processes, is their money safe and will it be refunded?
So that is why I'm saying this, Rogers. You see, if money has been used to pay for other children within the same group, where was the money coming from? It is the same money from the same parents. So as we speak right now, the main reason why we've invited the investigative agencies is that let's know exactly how much shortage is there and how much refunds will have to come from the parents, how much will have to come from the universities, what has been paid to the agencies. This is the main reason why there is an investigation going on. But as we speak now, the monies in the account is the minimal. It's a snapshot that I gave a week ago. That's only 1.8 million because the refunds, the money which was being there has been used to do refunds. They are paid for air tickets for some of these who went to Finland, accommodation. So, but it is being managed by the trust. So we make recommendations, but as of now, even if we have a whole list of parents who have requested for refunds, but there is no monies from the account to be refunded. Although we handshake with the trustees, and they say there is no money and this is the main reason why the investigations is ongoing, and we are actually asking for it to be expedited, so that once we know the actual shortfall of what is not available, then as leaders of Uasin Gishu, because there is even a meeting that His Excellency the Governor has called actually for later this week, that we put our minds together and say, once the report comes out from DCI and from ESCC and say this is a shortfall, then we put our heads together as leaders and say what next. But we need to find out first what is that shortfall. That's why I still stand by saying let's get the truth from the bank statements being done by independent bodies authorized by law to do investigations, so that we can be able now to say if there is a shortfall, who are the culprits? People will have to carry their own cross if they touched into the kitty of parents. So I sympathize with the parents. We have a whole record of all the monies that you have paid. But as we speak now, we are not running away from this program under the leadership of Jonathan B. We want to see how we can enable our students. And I've classified. There are those who are in Finland, there are those who are here, they are paid money. A lot of monies have been paid to universities, although they are still here. We have 149 in Finland who one semester fees have been remitted. We have 189 still in Kenya, but one semester fees have been remitted to Canada. All this database, I want to request the parents, as we look at the shortfall, please come and confirm in the county, because we have a database now. When you come, we will tell you, confirm that this is the money that you paid. Most of the parents have confirmed. So we have a whole record of the 904, how much money they paid.
Okay.
So I want to welcome them, but I also want them to be patient, because we are where we are in terms of the challenges that we have around the program. We are not running away from those challenges. And I can only give the guarantees in terms of saying, we as the leaders of Uasin Gishu, once the report comes out clearly, then we will put our heads together and see what next.
So in short, administratively, your hands are tied until investigation is conducted. Is there anything you can do as investigations are being conducted to perhaps hasten the process, give more insights around, the nitty-gritty details?
So we've shared a lot of information with the ESCC, particularly in terms of all these databases. They have been working very closely with the team. Let me mention this thing of saying you moved. You see, this program was between the Department of Youth and the Department of Education. And there was a ping pong. When the governor decided to have a task force, and he told me to head a task force, and there was a ping pong between the two departments, I saw it fit that during this period, when we are trying to address these pertinent issues which have emerged in the program, that I domicile them. So resources actually from the Department of Education were seconded to my office during this period when we are trying to address the issues and the challenges around the program. Once we complete and we're able to give our recommendation and the possible way forward, because we intend to even visit Finland actually in September. Right now they are on summer holidays. So we'll put our recommendations based on these challenges that we've gone through, including even relooking at why should we have a trustee which is looking at an individual. We will be making recommendation to say we will continue with the trust, but we want the trust to be looking at positions. If you put, say, deputy governor as a trustee, you put the position, deputy governor.
Not the individual.
Not the individual.
Okay.
So that when your term goes and somebody else comes, you have a proper handover that you can say, this is where we are and all this. So there are teething problems around this program, and I want us to have some patience. We've shared a lot of information, and let the truth come out, and everybody will take their responsibility. But please, let's care for the children involved in this program. I hear a lot of pains when I listen to Wazee kama hawa na wanafunzi, and I've listed all the three groupings, those who have been refunded, those who are in Finland, those who have been paid, and those who are paid their money and their money cannot be traced to any of the universities, and they don't have any admission from any of the universities. So we have a clear database. But now I just ask for patience as the investigations are completed and as the leaders put their minds to see
but you know, Bwana DJ, patience at a time like this, you definitely understand, and we've heard from some parents that they remitted money as late as 2022 March, a year later or a couple of years later, there's still no progress. So sitting here, can you give any timelines perhaps to, emphasize on that message of patience, because it's a little bit it's a hanging statement.
It's a bit tough, because when the governor invited ESCC to look at this program, he had requested them to do it in 1 month. With the conversations that we have had with them, there are some things which cannot be hurried because they want to be thorough. So it is just our request, hearing all this anxiety around all this program, I want to request them that if they can expedite, it will be good for everybody, for all of us, so that we can chart a way forward.
Mwiti, come in as we equally finalize on this whole conversation. And some of the remarks right there have been centered on perhaps the criteria that is used to pick students. And I know perhaps your particular Airlift program might be a little bit different, but speak generally to what exactly is looked at in terms of picking who exactly qualifies, because we've had remarks that, you know, I particularly applied to this program before someone else, but they happened to be taken before I did, yet we had remitted all the money what was required of us. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So when it comes to admission to universities abroad, it depends with each and every program. So it's usually not like a blanket admission requirement. So for example, like what we currently do, we mostly work with students who are going for masters, STEM designated programs. And for that, depending on the program that you're going to study, you have also to have some background maybe in that kind of a program. Also, there are some requirements. For example, maybe a program might be asking for, let's say, for example, evaluation of transcripts, and also depending on different programs, you can't just take a student just like that. You have to first get to know what qualifications do they hold. Do they meet the qualifications that actually the school is requiring? Because each and every program from different schools, they normally ask for different qualifications. So it's very, very important to understand that. And also even to the students to also understand that also admission is also not guaranteed. You might actually be having the right qualifications, everything you meet, everything, but the school for that program, for that class, it's full. And you can't go in, let's say for example, you are supposed to go this fall in August, and then you can't go. And you know, sometimes the student may not understand that. You know, once they get into the program, maybe the student thinks that, you know, because you've already paid to join the program, also you are guaranteed admission. So it's very important for students to actually know also that also even admission to schools and to programs, it's not guaranteed, even though there's an MOU between whether it's the agency or the government in this case, to actually bring students to that school. Yeah, so it's very, very important, because otherwise if a student just assumes that, you know, the admission is guaranteed, then they're gonna get frustrated, because actually it doesn't work like that.
Well, thanks for clarifying that. And as we finalize, Bwana Deputy Governor, even as you add your comments, I'd just like you to speak to the policy framework, because you've mentioned the committee posing recommendations to the trust, to the trustee members rather. In terms of these recommendations, will we see better structures, and how soon perhaps? And number two, as we equally finalize, in terms of clarification of questions, is there a dedicated office under the county government of Uasin Gishu that will perhaps, you know, try and lighten the burden of some of these aggrieved family members who have numerous questions, and the only place they can turn to is the county government, because they can't go all the way to Finland, they can't troop all the way to the EACC to follow up on investigations? Yes.
Thank you very much, Roger. So let me start with a question from one of the students that I need to clarify about the visit of His Excellency the Governor to Canada, in November. So there were 3 governors who went for fact finding, to find out what other possibilities exist in Canada. But service it to say that the 4 universities that we have taken students, the 45 students, and we are taking the additional 189, all of them are programs and MOUs which were signed way back, but we still take responsibility. So we have not taken any new students to any new universities, even if the governor visited in November.
Thompson's College,
Thompson's was already signed, the MOU was already signed way back. It's among the 4 universities that I mentioned. But when the governor was there, he was gracious enough to meet the students, Kenya students, Uasin Gishu students who are in those universities. Now, in terms of process, so as we speak today, every Thursday, I have 4 employees seconded to my office. 2 dealing with Canada and 2 dealing with Finland. They are available every other day. But I myself am available on Thursdays, and I've been meeting with the leaders of all these parents by university, and also even groups. Maybe the only thing we need to look at is the 125, where they are not placed, that we maybe need to put a bit more attention. But in terms of redefining the process, we are going to write our task force recommendation after the visit, because we are visiting around 15th of September. So we'll be and we'll be going to Finland jointly with the members of the task force, a few parents who are able to sponsor themselves, and members of the county assembly. Then after that, now we will make our recommendations, but we still take the responsibility of those who are in the program to see what is it that we can do for them as we look into the future of seeing how to re-engineer the processes. Because as we speak today, there are hardly any processes to manage this program. It was nearly left actually like a rule of thumb on how these things were being done. And that's why you find so many questions by parents and students, because there are no procedures. There was no even a way of ensuring that those who came first are handled first, those who requested for refunds first are paid.
And who's to blame for this oversight? Who was supposed to put these structures in place? Because we have a legal advisor in the county, as you mentioned.
I think the program started, but within a very short time, the numbers multiplied. So instead of taking one step back at that time and say, let's re-engineer the process, as it happens in any other corporate world, you document. If you have even this audit that we are carrying, there is nothing to compare against, because there was no documented way of doing things. So it is now the right time that we need to look and be able to even explore. When we go to Finland, there are things that I'll be very keen on. One is, how can we move this Uasin Gishu student from the on-demand training, which is a bit expensive. On-demand training is specifically tailored for you. 2, it doesn't have any flexibility. If it is class from 8 to 5, it has to be 8 from 5, and all of you have to be there. Unlike in Canada, where the Uasin Gishu students are joining students in the university normal programs, if things go tough, you can reduce actually your units to very minimum, so that it can allow you to also make a living, because they are allowed up to 30 hours to work in a week to be able to earn a living, because these are hustler parents who are trying to create a future for their children. So we'll be looking at all these things, including reviewing the issue of nominating trustees. It was even, I've not seen any document on which process was used actually to even nominate the trustees, and which positions, and which there is no parent who is a trustee. So we'll be recommending that we put parents, especially a parent, during the time that they have a student in the program. So we define all these things, and we'll give a recommendation hopefully by end of September. Just to finalize, Roger,
briefly.
I can just say 1 or 2 things about the county. So in the financial year 2022-2023, during the first term of His Excellency Jonathan B., we have had 3 wins. Let me say, first of all, in our first year, we've hit 1 billion of revenues. So we collected 1 billion, which has surpassed actually most of the years in the past of devolution. 2, we've managed to reduce our pending bills from 780 million to less than 2 million. So we've honored actually the issue of pending bills, which is a debate in many other places. In terms of absorption rate for development funds, we have hit 71% during our first year. So these are pluses, and we are very busy doing digital transformation. As we speak now, we are implementing a revenue system from a company called Jambo Pay. We're implementing a call center like, I was in these mobile network operators, and call centers is a reservoir of intelligence about what you do. Then lastly, we'll be hosting the Devolution Conference, and I want to take the opportunity, as done severally, to thank the Council of Governors for having chosen Eldoret amongst many other bidding cities to host the Devolution Conference, which will be there from 15th to 19th of August. And I want to welcome all Kenyans to really participate, to review the devolution in the past 10 years, what has worked, and devolution going forward.
Okay.
Because devolution, I believe, is one of the best things that has happened in the ground, that we can be able to feel development all the way to the villages.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Of course, it's proper to sing about the victories of Uasin Gishu County here or there. And as we finalize, Muiti, I know we've talked a lot about, the Airlift program. So perhaps speak to the ecosystem that is currently in the country. I know you mentioned you reside in the US, but working with bright students right here who are looking for further opportunities abroad, and we've seen some of these inconsistencies come up. Speak to the challenges you're facing currently with the Airlift program, and perhaps how to, dot I's, cross T's, make sure that it's a seamless process, irrespective of whichever Airlift program, a student perhaps approaches for facilitation. Yeah.
Absolutely. So maybe to clarify, the Kenya Lift program is not really the same program as what we have with the county of Uasin Gishu. Our program, we send students, we facilitate bright students to go and study abroad. And for us, what we do is we finance the whole process in terms of tuition fee waivers from the universities that we work with, and unsecured international student loans. Currently, through the Kenya Lift program, we've been able to facilitate over 1.5 billion Kenya shillings in terms of unsecured international student loans. Also, through the partnerships that we have with the schools that we work with, at least that % of our students, they have some form of tuition waivers and some form of scholarships. We normally call them graduate assistantship awards. And at the moment, we've been able to get more than 200 million in terms of scholarship for the students that we facilitate to go abroad. And for us, it's not really just a matter of just sending students. Also, what we do is we support them career-wise so that they can be able to transition and be able to get jobs, not just in the US, but also here in Kenya. Because in fact, actually, what we are trying to solve is the, we know that there is need for, tech skills, because we mostly specialize on tech skills. We know there's a need of tech skills here in this country, because skills like, for example, analytics, data science, cybersecurity. Some of the universities that we have here really don't have such programs, especially at the master's and PhD level. So we want to be able to supply those kind of skills back home and be able to help the country, get into our Vision 2030, the one that we have. So when it comes to the caliber of students that normally we look for, it's basically really good students who are mostly interested in studying tech-related master's programs. Now, we've had, of course, a lot of challenges, even as the same way Honorable Engineer John was saying, in the sense that sometimes, when you have such a program, and a lot of people just coming in, there's usually a lot of challenges because of the sheer big numbers that come in. Currently, we're having issues to do with passports. We have so many students who have actually passports have not been processed. I think there's issues at the, at the immigration offices with the printer, and also issues to do with visas. We get a lot of students getting denied visas, and we're actually asking our government to even lobby with the US government and try to see how bright students can be facilitated visas, especially the ones that are fully funded. Because if you look at, for example, a country like India, it sent over 50,000 students last year to the US, similar students with similar profiles to what we have. And yet here in Kenya, we can't even send more than 2,000 or 3,000 students to the US in the whole country for a whole year. So it's a big challenge, and maybe the government can come in and help out.
Okay, political goodwill is definitely key, but what you said and stood out for me, trying to sort out the issue of brain drain, so we make sure that, this talent and bright minds actually come back and serve the country. So gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I know, Engineer, you've sat on the hot seat today, but you've done quite a good job in terms of trying to explain some of the inconsistencies and some of the emotive questions we've equally had from the residents of Uasin Gishu County. So from the Deputy Governor, is mentioned Thursdays, he actually meets with some of the leaders from these parents groups, perhaps highlighting some of those issues and the progress and the status update. Equally, 4 members from his office actually set aside to take a look into this particular matter. So as members of the Fourth Estate, we'll continue highlighting what you need to know in terms of this particular airlift program, even as we try and inform you, as well as asking the questions you need to be raised. Engineer, we appreciate your time. John Barorot is the Deputy Governor of Uasin Gishu County. Asante sana for your indulgence right here. Bob Mwiti, equally the Director, Kenya Airlift Program. Thanks for your time and clarification as well on the broadcast. We aren't able to have Kimutai Kirui due to certain challenges, but pretty sure some of the issues he wanted to highlight have been covered during this special program. My name is Jesse Rogers. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Good night.